Welcome to our class on do-it-yourself water-wise landscape design. This class was created for do-it-yourselfers who are interested in creating their own landscape design and qualifying for Aurora Water's Grass Replacement Incentive Program. We have two main goals that at the end of the class, you will learn the principles and approaches for creating your water-wise landscape design. And that you will also feel confident in creating a design unique to your unique space and needs. To get started, we have a list of tools that you will need. The first is your site map packet. Aurora Water's landscape design team will be happy to mail you your packet. This packet includes an aerial map of your project, a tracing paper called vellum, and your existing site survey, which basically gives you a thought map on dimensions of your landscape. You're gonna need a pencil, tracing templates, plant size templates. It would be helpful to have the themed plant lists at your disposal, the mock designs at your disposal. You can find our plant list calculator on the Grass Replacement Incentive Program's webpage. And if you have a laptop or tablet so that you can access the calculator and refer to the theme designs and mock designs, that's really going to help you move through this process. When we fill out the site survey, what we're doing is informing ourselves of how things fall or where they fall in our landscape, including the direction the sun moves over our house, where we might find stop signs or yield signs, what direction our home faces, so that we know where our north arrow goes and what direction to point it. Our aerial map will have our scale on it and indicate where our water meter is. All of these elements are going to be important for creating your water-wise landscape design. You don't want to put plants on your water meter or on your stop sign. Grip requires a north arrow and scales to be indicated on your design. And if you have existing beds in your landscape that you won't be converting to a different water-wise landscape material, you will want to exclude those from your square footage. Don't forget, the name and address of your project is going to be really important. So now we've kind of covered the site map and the site analysis. We are currently sitting in the concept of design portion of this process, to be followed by design creation and a final plan. You need to come to this project with some things in mind. One of the biggest things would be what plants you like. Do you have a vision for your water-wise landscape project? While design is subjective and there's no right or wrong, we do want to be thoughtful about where we place our hardscapes. We also want to be thoughtful about where we put our plants. We don't necessarily want really short plants against the house to be blocked from view and from sunlight by larger shrubs. But remember, everybody designs differently. What you like and what you find attractive might not be what I like and what I find attractive. You're designing your own water-wise landscape. Here are some basic principles and elements of landscape design. We're going to go through these pretty quickly. If you'd like more in-depth information on design principles and elements, you can refer to the CSU extension web pages. Balance in design is a lot like balance anywhere else We don't want one side to be heavier than another, or one area of our landscape to be heavier than another. We want good spacing between our plant material. We want roughly the same sizes of plants on either side of our front walk. We need to be thoughtful about scale. We can't create a design with only trees or only shrubs or only small perennials. Scale in this sense means we want to have different elements, different rising and falls of plant heights. This would create symmetry and variety. We don't need our landscape design to be perfectly symmetrical, but it can be. That is a certain design aesthetic. Think about the colors that you like. Is it sage greens? Is it deep dark greens? Red flowers, yellow flowers, purple flowers, white flowers? That's up to you. Do you want to create hard or soft edges or lines? Would you like to see rhythms and sequences in your landscape? Try to keep your landscape design simple. When we make it complicated, we can make it kind of expensive. Create an emphasis or focal point by using dry creek beds, berms, trees, shrubs. Texture in a water-wise landscape is the number one element that you can use because texture is all year round. Blooms in most of our water-wise plants last about 1 to 2 weeks, but texture is part of the 4 seasons of design. Are there significant plant features that you're aware of or maybe not aware of? For instance, when does the plant bloom? Does the plant create fruit? What does the plant attract, like hummingbirds or bumblebees? Seasonal interest is a big player in a water-wise landscape, and we'll talk more about that on the next slide. Here we have 4 images from the Aurora Water-Wise Garden, all taken at different points through the year. On the left, we have mid-May. You can see that some of our shrubs, which are evergreen, are now in full bloom with yellow flowers. Our sumac is just in the foreground there, is just coming into a full leaf. You can see the repeating form of all of these plants. In the back, we have those tall trees, and then we have a large shrub, and then smaller shrubs as we move towards the foreground. And all of these are repeating forms or repeating shapes. As we move across to the right through the photos, we can see that foliage changes color, but also what is in bloom is also changing. Until we get to November on the far right, where we see lots of pinks and reds and yellows as winter settles into the water-wise landscape. Some things that you might want to take into consideration in creating your seasonal interest, of course, is bloom time, bloom color, what is produced from the flower, what kind of fruit, and probably my most favorite is the structure of the shrub or the tree. Once the foliage falls off, what does this kind of skeleton of the plant look like? Does the bark have an interesting color or texture? This image presents form and edge and rhythm. We have a row of pink roses that are all in bloom. Just to the right of that row, we have another row of daylilies, which are finishing blooming. Then to the right of that, we have a row of purple salvia, which can be cut back to create a second flush. Then we see a pathway which separates the salvia from the maidenhair grass. And that maidenhair grass is going to come into its full flower when all of these other plants have started to go dormant and look more plain. The 2 greeneries the maidenhair grass and the daylily create texture and foliage. The line that is created here is softened by the grass overhanging that pathway. Do you want a softened line? Do you want a sharp line? These are aesthetic and subjective design elements. How do you create your design? Well, if you're creating it for the grass replacement incentive program, here are the following guidelines. For front yards, we have a specific amount of plant coverage required by city code for water-wise landscapes. Code requires that 50% of your space, or your front yard, be long-living plant material. That's perennials. That is what our water-wise plant list calculator is made of. Strictly long-living plant material. When we're looking for mulch, we have two options. My favorite is wood and rock mulch combination. So different parts of the landscape have a wood mulch and different parts of the landscape have a rock mulch. City code requires two contrasting types of mulch. So you can have all rock, but one needs to be angular and one needs to be river rock. You want them to be contrasting sizes and colors as well. Within the water-wise landscape city code, there are also hardscape features that are required. You have a choice of any of these: boulders, masonry, rock walls, and berms. And these can be used in your landscape to create dimension and dynamic falls. Rather than having a flat plane of lots of plants, now we have plants that are at higher heights. We have places for our eyes to rest when looking across the landscape. Boulders need to be a set of 3 with a minimum size of 2 by 2 by 2 feet. The berms can be up to 2.5 feet tall, and the 1-to-4 rise over run ratio means for every 4 feet long, the berm reaches 1 foot high. Rock walls are purely decorative, between 18, with a minimum of 18, but up to 24 inches high. This is not a retaining wall. A retaining wall is a structural wall that keeps a hillside from moving. This is purely decorative. When we are creating our landscape design, we are using a scale. The most popular scales are for 1 inch on the paper. We're representing 8 feet in reality. The other popular measurement is a 1 inch equals 10 feet. Scale is important because it decides what size circles we need to use to draw our landscapes. We ask that you draw your plants up to 75% of mature size for your design. That measurement is already created for you in the plant list calculator on the GRIP webpage. Pay attention to scales when adding your hardscape features. Correct scaling of your boulders, your rock walls, and your berms is going to give your landscaper a better idea of cost. This is an example of a hand-drawn landscape design, first done in pencil, then traced over in ink. In this design, we can see there is a pathway and a berm. The pathway is made of pavers. You'll notice that each plant is represented by a circle, and that each circle is, well, we have various sizes of circles. You can see that we have small things kind of outside, but that doesn't indicate the height of these plants. Another thing I would like to point out in this design is we are designing for a front yard, a side yard, and a curbside or tree lawn space. The side yard and the front yard, when submitted to the grass replacement incentive program, can be on one plant list. The curbside, however, must be a separate plant list. In situations where customers are designing a native grass lawn, we ask for that native grass lawn to be submitted on a separate plant list as well. This is an example of what that plant list may look like, and you can see that there's a note. One plant list for the main front yard, one plant list for the curbside area. Let's check out some different landscape styles so that your creative juices can get flowing. Here we have a curbside landscape. We can see two contrasting mulches, wood around the tree and river rock through the rest of the design. These plants are immature, but we can tell that there's a rhythm and symmetry here. This design is well balanced against the size of the house and the space between the house and the sidewalk. One of the great elements that we're looking at here is the visual textures that vary between the plant materials. You can see some junipers in the back and some more rounded shrubs in the front, giving it a very natural look. Another element that I do enjoy here is the variation in rock sizes. The resident has chosen to use 4 to 7 inch cobble along the sidewalk to kind of create a barrier where the smaller rock will not slide or move across the sidewalk. If you check out our installation class, you can learn how to grade your soil so that the rocks don't slide across the sidewalk and you won't have to create a border. You can also see that this homeowner put a dry creek bed in their landscape, which is an optional landscaped feature that helps create a focal point, and they also chose boulders. Here we see the flow of the landscape going up a hill towards the house, and it's also on a curve. We see a lot of mixtures in mulch types and sizes of plants. We see trees and shrubs and ornamental grasses and shorter perennials. There's a lot of boulders in this landscape, and I really love the element of the stairs going from one level up to the next. I would say that that would be the focal point, that and the tree that's closest to it on the right-hand side. Don't forget that when we're changing from a monoculture of Kentucky bluegrass, we are creating a habitat for pollinators and other insects. This garden is in between two driveways and has pollinators in mind with its little pollinator house. We can see lots of different kinds of flowers, which is the best way to attract pollinators. What a fun way to make a mini pollinator garden. Here is an example of native grass lawn. This native grass is blue grama, Colorado state grass. And in the border planting bed near it, we have mock oranges, lilacs, and catmint, and a nice boulder to round it out. We also have wood mulch rather than rock mulch here. Let's get moving on those designs, friends. So you're going to need to complete your at-home materials, which you can request from Conservation Design at auroragov.org. Get your tools together. Create your plant list. Don't forget to look at your scale and your 75% mature size for accurate drawing. Choose your hardscape features. Start selecting your plant placements and hardscape features. I recommend doing this in pencil and playing with it. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You can always reach out to the landscape design team in Aurora Water Conservation at Conservation Design at auroragov.org, and we'll be happy to give you a hand brainstorming your landscape design. Most of all, try to have fun with this. It's a fun exercise in creativity, and if you need any inspiration, feel free to peruse the Aurora Waterwise Garden over at City Hall. It's open from dawn to dusk, and it's free of charge. So have a good time with your landscape design, Aurora, and stay water wise.